Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about a brand new studio album from American progressive alternative doom soul fusion metal band thing, Oceans of Slumber, entitled Starlight and Ash. If that genre description label sounds confusing to you, that's because, well, it is. There's a lot of stuff going on within the Oceans of Slumber sound. Think like catatonia and typo-negative style melancholy gloom and doom, but with gritty, authentic, soulful, almost gospel-like vocals. And you're kind of in the right ballpark. I thoroughly enjoyed their self-titled album when it dropped in the summer of 2020, just 2 years ago. From what I understand, Oceans of Slumber have been quite meticulously working on this album ever since. And the end result is an album that not only refines everything that the self-titled did so well, but I'd go as far as to say it's probably one of the more unique metal records you'll hear all year, and Oceans of Slumber's best album to date. It's bigger, it's bolder, the production is fucking fantastic. Everything is crystal clear and has so much weight and body to it. The sound itself is more ambitious and eclectic than ever before, bringing a slew of new ingredients and flavors and spices to an already potent and ambitious broth. This press release I've obtained goes as far as to cite influence from a ton of different artists, including Nick Cave, Chris Stapleton, the aforementioned Typo Negative and Catatonia, Candlemass, the Moody Blues, Pink Floyd. I would argue there's a lot of Evanescence in this thing as well. The double whammy of the Spring of 21 and Just a Day in particular drip with the same kind of lush, syrupy, over-the-top melodrama that Evanescence has become famous for. I would go as far as to say that these two tracks together make up what is doom and prog metal's answer to something like My Immortal. And I mean that in the best way possible, because these tracks are pretty damn fucking brilliant. I love how classical piano is integrated. I love those heavier, simplistic kind of goth metal, doom metal riffs contrasted with those very smooth and soulful vocals, courtesy of powerhouse Cammie Gilbert, who unsurprisingly is the star of the fucking show here. If you are not convinced that Cammie is one of modern rock's best fucking singers right now by the time you finish this album, hell, by the time you finish any single song, then honestly, you're deaf. You straight up aren't paying attention. The rest of Oceans of Slumber certainly seems convinced of this, because a vast majority of the material on this record, more so than anything on the self-titled record, is built and shaped around her vocal capabilities, her hooks, her melodies, her choruses. Which isn't to say there aren't still plenty of standout moments musically, because there are. There are some great keyboard arrangements, some great blast beats, some really heavy, thick, gnarly fucking grooves, but all of this exists to embolden Cammie. Like, if Cammie is the star of the show, then we can look at the rest of Oceans of Slumber as the hard-working cast and crew, as producers and directors running around making sure everything is right, making sure everything goes off without a hitch, smooth as fucking butter, which it does. Duh. Opening track The Waters Rising, for instance, is stark and stirring and dramatic and powerful. Cammie's love of classic southern gospel and soul music is very much on display here, more so than it is on any other track on this fucking record. I like how she's carried by some very simplistic but very effective keyboard arrangements and beats and electronic passages. It's moody, it immediately captures and rewards your curiosity and attention. The transition later on into like a genuinely kind of dirty, pummeling, kind of edgy modern rock number is pretty fantastic. Those blast beats, especially near the end, makes this sound absolutely fucking massive in size and scale. There's also Red Forest Roads, which does follow a slightly similar path to that of The Waters Rising, but it never feels repetitive or derivative, as it now deploys influence from the realm of southern rock, complete with bluesy guitar licks and slower country drawls and patterns that honestly would not be out of place on a really, really dark and rustic kind of country ballad. There's also The Lighthouse, which is a slow-burning prog rock number filled with aching strings and vocals. There's a very intimate and quiet version of House of the Rising Sun on this record that I think is pretty powerful as well. Oftentimes, when a rock or metal band chooses to cover House of the Rising Sun, there is a temptation to make the song bigger, louder, more metal, heavier sonically to emphasize the inherent melodrama and tragedy of the original cut. Cough, cough, Five Finger Death Punch's version of House of the Rising Sun, cough, cough. Ooh, that's a nasty cold I got. I gotta get that checked out. Thank God Oceans of Slumber went in the exact opposite direction, opting for something far more minimalistic and quiet and bitter, making for probably one of the better cover versions of this song I've heard. I think there's a little bit of a lull in the very middle of this track with Salvation and Star Altar. They're by no means terrible, but they're definitely not as powerful as a lot of the other tracks we've talked about. But immediately following these two tracks, you're subjected to the best material on the album. The aforementioned Spring of 21 and Just a Day, House of the Rising Sun. Even the closing number, The Shipbuilder's Son, is a bombastic, explosive, kind of symphonic prog doom metal banger. And I mean, at the end of the day, if the worst thing I can say about this album is that there are two songs that aren't as good as everything else, then fuck it. Clearly, we have something pretty fucking incredible. So with that in mind, 4.5 out of 5. I think this is a fucking fantastic record. If you love the idea of like soul and gospel being integrated into doom and prog metal, I think you're gonna love this fucking record. If you're familiar with Oceans of Slumber already and you've enjoyed what they've done already, I think you'll fucking love this record. This is definitely something that I would also recommend to anyone who is like, oh, metal has become so stale and tired and cliche. Because, I mean, like, there is nothing stale or tired or cliche about any single moment of this fucking record. Like, honestly, I fucking challenge you to find even one other band that sounds even remotely a little bit like this. And for that reason alone, I would also say, yeah, check it out. It's super unique. It's super fresh. It doesn't really sound like anything else out there. I don't know, man. I sure as hell love it. Anna, are you familiar with this band?
No, not really.
You should be, because you would probably love this.
Oh.
Case in point, I'm just going to recommend this album to everybody, because it's that fucking good. Once again, 4.5 out of 5. This thing's fucking incredible. Check it out. Just do it. End of fucking story. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown e-fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.